I formed this business called Madwejiwan that came out of about 10 years, 10 to 15 years of going into the schools in Niagara region with the drum group. So we would go in and share Anishinaabeg dance, Anishinaabeg music, and what our regalias were about, and the difference between regalias and costumes, and our dance styles, and what the drum origin is about, and how it's meant to teach harmony, and how the women gifted it to men because men needed ability to bring life to the community. Women already had that gift inside them, so they offered them a place to learn harmony. And harmony among men is a way to bring life to community, as well as praying with our hearts, feeling-based prayer around a dewegan, a drum. So there's a very important teaching there that transposes to today's real life world on how men need to put away obsolete competition and work in harmony for our children, elders, and women of our communities. And we can move mountains together when we work well together. So we always sharing those teachings. And then it grew because we're in Haudenosaunee country. We had social music added onto that. And then we have a number of people from all over the world in this group too. We had contemporary music, and we wrote music that had incorporated language like Akinawaya, like we're all connected, and Haudenosaunee, Yahweh Sangwayan Diso, a song called Ways of the Water that honored the waters and saying Yahweh, thank you, Sangwayan Diso, creator in Mohawk. So then we did about 170 schools over 10 years, and half hour Ojibwe, Anishinaabe music, dance, half hour Haudenosaunee, and then a half hour contemporary. For an hour and a half, we would have anywhere from 200 to 500 students in a gym, amazed, paying attention, laughing, having fun. We had the teachers and principals do a smoke dance, and the children would cheer to choose the winner of the smoke dance championship. And we also, like, we talked about role modeling and them being role models in that way. So, and then we were told afterward, like months later, the kids are still talking about that time that youth came into our school, and it began to be something that schools would pull in, and we didn't have to sell it. So they already knew about us, and we were continually being asked. And that kind of opened my eyes to an opportunity to further this for myself in an individual level, because one of the schools I made a contact with the teacher who asked me to come in the class. So I went into the classroom and I said, how do you want to set up? I said, well, definitely on the floor in a circle, push all the desks to the side. And I brought in my bundle, my pipe, and medicines, the drum, the big drum, the hand drum, and the flutes, and some the feathers with the bundle. And just talked about how all this stuff came into my life and what it meant to me, and passed it around. And asked for their respect in handling these items. But like, I'm honored to be able to share this with you. And the music too, and what the music meant. And I had their full attention, grade 5 class, for over an hour, and it was a great experience. So I then had some adversities come into my life with relationships and my health that really pushed me to question again those time in my teen. Who am I? Why am I here? What am I doing with my life? And I felt like I was not fulfilling myself by working for somebody else. I worked at a bank. I worked at an Aboriginal organization with healthcare, but then I was a stay-at-home father for 3 years, and still this doing with this drum group. I was kind of like the manager and the booker, and helping us get the gigs and keeping us organized, keeping everybody paid. And I came to a point where I had to do something. I had to organize all these loose ends of gifts that I felt like was honing in on and crafting the ability to share them. And so I went to seek some help. and I received some help in making a business plan out of it and pulling all these into an organized way to be able to share, this is what I can do, and here's how we can make it happen.
Yes.
So that was what I needed help with. So it happened, and then we created the name Madwejiwan because I lived in Niagara Falls at the time too. So the sound of moving water is pretty prevalent in Niagara Falls, and water is just so important. And if you kind of look at generations, it's like a flow too, and we need to pass this knowledge down, the flow of water through, and water is a knowledge carrying element and has spirit. It's like liquid crystal in a sense in the blood of Mother Earth. And so all that had such an important meaning to me when I came across that word. And so that was the beginning of being able to do that. And from that, from Madwejiwan came acting roles. I was able to, we did 75 runs of a play in Niagara on the Lake called Petticoats, Boots, and Muskets, which was like a tongue-in-cheek of the War of 1812 and all the players, including Tecumseh and Fitzgibbon and Brock and Lord Secord and John Norton. So I played 6 characters and 13 changes and performed 8 songs within a 35-minute play. So it was quite a dynamic experience because I had never done plays before. That was my first play. And then it helped to show another gift that it led to a silent part in a Fort George gig one summer. Then we toured it across Canada, from Manitoba to Halifax the next summer, and again educating people on the message. And I was opening and closing the event and would share an honor song and speak about the drum. Our music group toured the country with an Australian artist on a spirit bird tour, where we again got to share this message with thousands of people from Vancouver right to Montreal. And then our group toured in the East Coast twice, to New Brunswick and back, and again sharing these stories. So music, acting, and working with schools, and then going into the elderly homes started happening too through another friend of mine who got his teaching degree and uses music as his therapy now. And he went into with Wellsprings mental health, and so I with him started in those areas too. And this Canadian Center for Addictions and Mental Health has come in several times. There were several elderly homes in the area, and then corporate gigs started asking us to play ambiance music and stuff. So those were a little more tertiary. And then principals had all the principals met at the school board. We got to speak with them and share. So it just turned into something. We were being ourselves, and it was being pulled to share that, because that's what was missing. That's what is missing, is this sense of community educators in the school system that are bringing authentic, real knowledge from the grassroots level into the classroom. And the poor teachers, some of them know, but most of them don't, and they're really scared. And they know they're failing their kids too, and it's not really their fault either. And a lot of them are really trying. So when they see community members step up, wanting to really share and something real, it's being pulled. So that's what birthed this idea for Madwejiwan. So then I moved up to Serpent River First Nation, where I've currently been living for 2.5 years. I started with a nomination for chief and to run for council, and I ended up making it on council, and our family moved up here, and I had to tweak Madwejiwan in a way where it suited the North Shore, because it's a little different in demographics up here, geography, we're Niagara, everything was close, everything spread out here. And so I was just starting to formulate how to unfold this up here. And Nogdawinnaman Family Community Services has just growing to almost designation when they were expanding their cultural services department. And they had one elder for the last 12 years kind of build this this program of Nagdawindamin. Well, it's the center of Nagdawindamin. It's the foundation. Like there's a spirit of Nagdawindamin that's represented with the eagle staff and the Wagon and the Pawagan. So like we work for a spirited entity called Nagdawindamin, and so it's an honor to work for the spirit that's there to guide us to do good by our children, families, and communities that are needing help. And a lot of that comes through cultural services in prevention, or even just helping through hard times, helping our workers through their hard times, helping the children, the parents, the communities. And empowering is the key, so that we're empowering communities to their own people, their own tools, their own knowledge, because all our communities have that. We just need to learn to revive it in this time of re-evolution of our culture. Indigenous education, I think, to boil it down as simple as terms, has to do with all our relations. Like we have that term, Nikagi na, all our relations, or Endaway Maganadok, to all that I'm related to. And we start our prayers and end our prayers a lot that way, and acknowledging that even that a k, earth, but k is a sound in that three-letter word that means infinite particulatism of all creation. So that one little word is a paragraph, but it's a k, Mother Earth, but k, we recognize that there was infinity in also large and small. And so we recognize all in that infinity was related. So we felt connection to everything in a way that was real, not thinking that we were separate. So in a colonized mind, we're taught to think we're separate. And so now Indigenous education has to help someone find that within them, that they're connected. Because you can't pedagogy someone to that they're connected. This is an awakening that has to happen within someone. So, and often music and the arts are the way in to help someone realize this for themselves and essentially find their heart map, I call it. That's Indigenous education. You awaken someone to, they were born naked, they came out of from their mother's waters with everything they needed written right in here. And if we're not taught to find this, then we're going to be codependent, outward dependent, and lose a lot of happiness in our life through that way, where we're going to live other people's dreams instead of our own. And it's not a happy road. Nagdawindamin has empowered me to be able to use the gifts that I've wanted to implore with this business now through their structure, and working with, in most cases, some of the most at-risk youth that we have in our community. So, you're only as far ahead as your last place runner. Well, then let's start working with our people at the back here, and so what I see as a vision is truth. Truth, like reconciliation, is the end result of truth. Like, and then it's an action. So. We had 2 annual treaty education weeks in Ontario. Started 2 years ago. We had the first one. Last year we had the second one, first week in November. The third one will be this November. But the treaty's 168 years old. Ours. And how many others exist that are old too? And they've only had 3 annual treaty education weeks. So that telling me that Canada needs a lot of help in reversing its legacy of ignorance. And that's how I'm about as polite as I can boil that down now, is a legacy of ignorance. Because They're not party to the treaties. They were to uphold the honor of the crown in those treaties, but instead they put them on the back burner and created an Indian Act, and the cultural genocide began. It began with the crown even back in 1812 when the signing of the Treaty of Ghent in Belgium with the United States. And the United States wouldn't sign that treaty if Britain kept their promises with Tecumseh and Roundhead and all the other leaders at the time that allied. So, this 200 years of peace since 1812 played a big role in educating that that's a myth. We're still at technically war with settler Canadians, and now the war is in the mind because so many generations have gone with no truth that there's a myth now created. You need a landmass, you need a language, and you need a culture to be a country. And I struggle to see Canada's culture. Its landmass is not legally sound, and its language is English, which is not it can't claim as its own. So I think Canadians are going to need a lot of help, just like our own people, in coming to grips with an identity crisis. And I'm seeing in my vision that empowering them to the honor of being a treaty partner might be a way to invigorate a new sense of what it means to be a Canadian, and put us in a place where we've always wanted to be as an honorable treaty partner, because we've always maintained our honor and struggled with the dishonor of our settlers that we welcomed here. So we get back to treaty truth. I'm hoping that establishes the relationship better again, brings the reconciliation. That's all that means, is now we're eye to eye again when we haven't been. The Canadian myth is pretty deep, and like I said, I grew up in it. I learned it, and I have white privilege, so I was able to be in those rooms without the prejudices on me because they didn't know I was a Ojibwe or had those roots. And so I heard those conversations, I heard those opinions, I heard those comments, and even outwardly to me as I started displaying my culture and who I am, even with long hair and working at a bank. Wow, they let you work with long hair here? And that's a legitimate question I've been asked, and it's like, they let me? So Indigenous education is truth-based and it's land-based. That's a whole other facet. We can get rid of the treaties. Now we're talking about, why don't we just go out and learn to set snares? Or what if we harvest a deer and learn to use everything on that deer, and now you're eating your meal and playing the hand drum from the same animal and have the hooves on your regalia dancing, and those things provide you healing that you can't forecast, or because every individual is going to have a different experience in a land-based experience, and you don't even need the paperwork. You just need to let that experience unfold and it'll take care of itself. You need space like land to provide land-based learning. Like even a vision with Nagda is having, like I shared, it's not Nagda vision, but it's something I've said, want to hear one of my dreams? And Karen said, yeah. And that we have transition homes that have land-based learning center attached with them. So we're learning the best of both worlds and how to take care of our basic needs in the urban setting or just in a home in general. Feed, clothe, clean, laundry, like cook, what to buy, what to eat, how to prepare, like even just medicines, like the pharmacy in the backyard instead of the one in Elliott Lake. And so, but then you got to go to land-based learning also to learn, like, well, where does the food come from? How do we prepare it? Where did we go find it? And our traditional diet, what was that like versus a mainstream diet? And how can we find a happy medium there? I grew up with a foot in both worlds, and I feel like we need to help our people see that. And also, like, instruments. I need instruments of indigenous cultures from all over the earth because I think it's a very important to learn about as many different cultures as we can as Anishinaabe people too, and as Canadian people. This helps us fit the role of a human better, and seeing the similarities and the differences are beautiful because then that's what makes us unique. Humanity to me is an organism that has a collective consciousness and it's broken into tentacles. You, me, and 7 billion others. So, I believe Indigenous education is going to help us be able to um, learn harmony. You know, on an earth that's becoming a human family, like more so than 100 years or 200 years, or it's so prevalent now. We're impacting our planet in ways because of these numbers that we never did before. So we're gonna have to know our connections and our relationships in order to make sound decisions on in moving forward. What that looks like, I don't know, but we're gonna get there together and get through it together. And by bringing people together to share and melt walls with music, with art, and be authentic, that allows someone's heart map to come out in that safe space. And that's what we need. I think everyone has a role to play in this new world from here. And Indigenous education empowers that interdependent walk. It empowers you through rites of passage. It allows you. Rites of passage was there to end the childhood and welcome the villager. To me, Indigenous education connects one with one spirit and their relationship and to their surroundings and why they're here. It's right in the clan system too. Like your spirit chooses your parents. You know your clan already before you're even conceived as to why you're coming here. And so, and those concepts of choosing parents before conception are not just Anishinaabe concepts. Those are becoming more prevalent. I hear it in other cultures as well.